Welcome to the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking about Mark's favorite Mediterranean cruise ports, how to get bonus Delta Sky Miles, what? Shake Shack and Delta are teaming up. We'll tell you how. And we'll also be talking about wintertime cruises. Let's get started. The Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com, contains travel deals, promotions, and offers that may be time sensitive. All offers and information were accurate when the show aired. Travel deals and offers change constantly and are capacity controlled and subject to change without notice.
Explore your world. It's the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com. Call or text the show now, 801-649-3700, 801-649-3700, and check out the podcast at InsideTravelTalk.com. And now, here are your hosts, Patrick Wiscombe and Mark Faldmoe.
I don't know about you, but my stomach has taken in more food in the last few days than I care to admit. But man, was it tasty. Welcome to the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show alongside Mark Faldmoe. My name is Patrick Wiscombe. This is the hangover, the food hangover edition of the show. As I was talking about right at the very beginning of the show, we're going to be talking about Shake Shack, as if I want to talk about more food. Shake Shack and Delta are teaming up. We'll give you the details coming up here in just a few minutes. Thank you so much for taking the time to stop and listen to the show. And the entire purpose of this show is to help you plan and book your next vacation and help you create memories, not only for yourself, your friends, your family, that when you look back and you're an old man and you need to take pills, you're going to go, man, I'm glad I went on that vacation with my family. If you don't know where to go, then our job is pretty simple to give you vacation ideas and destinations for you to consider. You can get the podcast at InsideTravelTalk.com or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're in the Salt Lake City area, we are on the air every Saturday and Sunday morning starting at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. And this show is presented by BluePlanetVacations.com. Mark Faldmoe is the owner of said company. How are you feeling after all that food?
Pretty good. I had a good holiday. I actually went to Puerto Vallarta earlier this week. Loved it. It came back just in time for a good Thanksgiving meal.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you took off and went down there.
Yeah, we just went for a quick time to Puerto Vallarta. This holiday probably wasn't quite as good as last year when we took the whole family to Hawaii and ate at Duke's, but it was still a great Thanksgiving. Lots of good food. Generally
speaking, everything is a downgrade when you're not in Hawaii and you're not sitting at Duke's. Looking at, I can't think of the volcano, Diamond Head.
Diamond Head. Yeah.
Oh, that view and the beach and the ocean looking at Diamond Head is some next level awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's start here since it's really starting to get pretty cold outside. What are the 5 most popular winter destinations for Americans?
Number 5 is Paris, France. It's the only cold weather destination that made this list.
Paris was number 5. What's number 4?
So number 4 is Playa del Carmen, Mexico. So in the kind of Riviera Maya there, it's got great beaches right there by the Mayan ruins. You know, a lot of great archaeological sites, snorkeling. The second largest coral reef is just outside of Playa del Carmen there.
I always think of the Mayan ruins, but I don't think of great beaches next door.
Tulum has one of the best beaches in the area, I think. You have to take a little pathway of stairs down to it, and it's just a great beach.
What's number 3 on this list?
Cabo San Lucas, another Mexico destination, this time on the west coast of Mexico. Cabo is one of the sunniest destinations year-round. Great for golf, deep-sea fishing.
And Sammy Hagar.
Yeah. Which, by the way, did you see he continued his residency in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I did see that. I think Patrick will be taking a trip down to Las Vegas then.
Yes,
I didn't realize what a Sammy Hagar fan I was.
me too. So maybe we should take that trip and go see them together. So
I agree. I don't think Heather and Nikki would want to come on that one.
probably not.
What's number 2?
So number 2 is Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic, another beach destination. I very much enjoy Punta Cana. One of my favorite things to do there is go out into the countryside and visit a local farm, kind of a local community. And they just show you how they live, show you how to make chocolate, because Dominican Republic is a pretty large producer of chocolate. It's a beach destination, but a good one.
And then the number 1 destination for winter?
I would consider this the same as number 4. They say number 1 is Cancun, Mexico. So to get to Playa del Carmen, you have to fly into Cancun anyway, and they're about 40 miles apart for the same reasons. Good beaches, good food. When I was there, it's been about 10 days ago in Cancun, lots of good tacos. One thing I like there, the hotel I like to stay at that we talked about, which was El Dorado Royale, different habanero sauce. I love habanero sauce. And in the morning, they have these rolled tacos. So taquitos, put, some onions and cilantro on with some sour cream, habanero sauce. And then I'll eat a taquito and then drink some Mexican hot chocolate with the cinnamon. Makes that burn really good. So
I wish that I could indulge in the pleasures of food. I sweat at ketchup, so what you just described just sounds like a day of me sitting in the hotel room.
Yeah, there's other good, more mellow food.
Give me a good corn tortilla, or a flour tortilla. Give me a Diet Coke. I saw a news item that Shake Shack burgers and Delta Airlines are teaming up, or at least kind of teaming up, to feed the burgers to some of its passengers. What are the details, though?
This will be for those in first class, where you get a choice of meal. So one of the meals is going to be a Shake Shack cheeseburger.
There we go.
Right now, this is only available from flights departing Boston, but they are going to roll it out to other airports. I don't think I recall ever seeing an airline team up with a restaurant for onboard food.
Yeah, that's a first.
And if it's consistent with Shake Shack.
I thought this was kind of interesting while we're talking about Punta Cana. Rafael Nadal, the tennis player, and Malia Hotel brands are teaming up. What are the details?
They are opening up a new lifestyle brand hotel. It's called Zell. It will be opening in Punta Cana, expected to open on December 12th.
Oh, so coming up real quick.
It's a smaller 190-room hotel. It's going to be all-inclusive. So that means it's going to have, the typical all-inclusive information. It's going to have multiple restaurants. And of course, with Rafael Nadal, it's going to have 7 tennis courts.
Of course it is. I thought that they would have played on his name. The name of the place would be called Backhand.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the destination of the week. Was this a text or an email that you got?
This was a text.
Okay. Dave wants to go on a Mediterranean cruise, but wants unique ports. And what ports should he consider?
So my favorite 2 ports, which are also unique in the Mediterranean, I think is Valletta in Malta and Kotor in Montenegro. A few years ago, it was rated as Europe's cultural heritage center. It's like walking around an open air museum. It has some Arab influence. It has Greek influence. It has Roman influence. It's an island in the kind of southern Mediterranean, and it actually was basically founded by the Hospitaller Knights during the Crusades. And it was a hospital island. So I guess that's where they'd evacuate all of the injured crusaders to, Malta. Sailing into Valletta and Malta is spectacular. It's got high cliffs with the Yellowstone buildings, colorful balconies. It is, I think, my favorite place in all of the Mediterranean to visit. And the other one, Kotor in Montenegro in the Aegean Sea. And sailing to there, it's sailing up what they call Europe's southern fjord. So you sail in the morning. It's a scenic cruise, like kind of sailing through a fjord in Alaska or Norway. And then you get to the end of it, And there is the city of Kotor, which is a small walled city, lots of history, kind of a unique situation there in Kotor. And if you're like to shop for Christmas stuff, there's a Christmas shop there that my wife loves to go in. I can't tell you how many hundreds of dollars we've spent in there buying nutcrackers and Russian nesting dolls and St. Nicholas. And there's all sorts of amazing Christmas stuff in that Christmas shop in Kotor, Montenegro.
We're a little bit short on time, so let's continue this conversation on the other side of the break. We'll give you the itineraries for what? Was it Kotor or Malta, or yes to both?
To both. I have one itinerary that includes each of those stops.
Okay, great. We'll continue the conversation. And if you have questions that you want to ask us while we're on the air, text us right now. 801-649-3700, 801-649-3700. Dave, we will continue talking about your Mediterranean cruise and the unique ports. That's coming up next, and we also give you the hot travel deal of the week in the next segment. Thank you so much for allowing us to be part of your Saturday and Sunday mornings. Mark and I will be right back.
Taking you to destinations around the world. The Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show is presented by BluePlanetVacations.com, America's best travel advisors. Call or text the show now. 801-649-3700. 801-649-3700. Thanks for listening. We'll be right back.
This segment of Inside Travel Talk is sponsored by El Dorado Spa Resorts. Escape to Cancun's Riviera Maya with authentic, all-inclusive luxury at an El Dorado Spa Resort. Our oceanfront resorts are exclusively for adults and have been voted among the most romantic resorts in Mexico and the world. To book your romantic beach getaway at an El Dorado Spa Resort, contact Blue Planet Vacations at 888-718-7717 or blueplanetvacations.com.
Now, back to the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com, America's best travel advisors. Call or text the show right now, 801-649-3700, 801-649-3700, and check out the podcast at InsideTravelTalk.com. Here's Patrick Wiscombe and Mark Faldmoe.
Mark, I was just thinking about the Shake Shack burger, the cheeseburger that we were talking about in the first segment. Shake Shack teaming up with Delta Airlines, bringing their burgers to the service. If you're in first class, I haven't eaten yet, so that sounds amazing.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm going to go today for lunch.
Should we just go there after the show?
Yes.
All right. That sounds so good right now. Welcome back to the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show. Alongside Mark Faldmoe, my name is Patrick Wiscombe, dreaming of Shake Shack burgers. Coming up in this segment of the show, we have the destination of the week. We're going to continue the conversation. Dave sent a text that he wants to go on a Mediterranean cruise, but wants unique ports and the ports that he should consider. And we've also got the travel news headlines. And of course, always in this second segment, we've got the hot travel deal of the week. And we're going to tell you how to get some bonus Sky Miles if you're a Delta flyer. But let's first get to the travel news headlines. You know, this doesn't surprise me at all that weather is a concern and is increasingly being factored into travel decisions for U.S. travelers.
This is interesting in that this has become more pronounced the last year or two, where people are making travel decisions based on possible weather. So avoiding certain destinations prone to hurricanes or blizzards or large storms. They are making travel decisions based on potential weather.
It's a little tough to time the weather, honestly. You just need to know that hurricane season is between, June through November?
June 1st through the end of November.
Okay, so we're still technically in that right now.
Yeah,
but today's the last day.
Yes. And when I was in Cancun about 10 days ago, there was a hurricane that hit in Belize, and we saw some effects of that. A little bit windy. One thing, as we've talked about in the past, you also can get some pretty good deals when considering traveling in some of these off seasons. So hurricane season in Mexico and the Caribbean, for instance. Looking at Costa Rica, if you go during what they call the green season, which is the rainy season, you can get some good deals on that. I guess pros and cons, but more and more people are opting to try and avoid these if they can. But again, it's hard. Like hurricane season, that takes out 6 months out of the year that you can travel. So
it's almost advantageous to travel when the weather is going to be kind of rough because of the deals available. But the flip side of that is you can't be upset if something goes wrong.
Yes. Side note, I did a honeymoon for a friend to Costa Rica about 2 weeks ago, and they got there. The operator said, well, we had to cancel their zip line because it was rainy. They got it rescheduled. Then they had to cancel the national park because the government closed all the national parks due to rain. And they said it's just unusually rainy here. And then when I talked to my friend, he's like, oh, that was one of the best trips that we've had. So you've got to figure out how to make the best out of your situation. For that situation in Costa Rica, they do call it the green season because it makes the jungle absolutely amazing.
Humid.
Yes.
Southwest Airlines is making bold changes to its drinks, and travelers, well, they seem to be split.
They're trying to do away with plastics on board, so they are now serving drinks in bamboo cups.
Please no paper straws.
Yes.
I draw the line at paper straws.
Yes, they just fall apart.
I said that we would continue the conversation, and if you're just joining us, one of our listeners, his name is Dave, he sent a text to us here in the studio, 801-649-3700, 801-649-3700 to get your travel questions answered. He wanted to go on a Mediterranean cruise, but wanted unique ports, and what ports should he consider? That was the question. In segment 1, we started answering that question, but we wanted to give him a more detailed answer. So let's talk about the Kotor Montenegro itinerary, and then let's give him the Malta itinerary.
Yeah, so I've chosen 2 itineraries. So one includes Kotor, one includes Malta. The first one is Royal Caribbean. This is the one that includes Kotor. It's a May 24th, 2025 departure. It's an Adriatic Sea cruising. It leaves from Venice. It goes to Kotor, which is the unique port. Also goes to Athens, Santorini, and Split in Croatia before returning back to Venice.
That's a great itinerary.
So get a little bit of the Greek Isles. You get some Croatia, which is another. I almost put Croatia on this list because it's pretty unique as well. But I think Kotor out of all of these is the most unique. But then you get Athens, the history of Athens, amazing Santorini, beautiful landscapes in Santorini. And then, of course, starting and ending in Venice is always a plus. I think 2 weeks ago, we talked about Venice as one of the unique places in the world to visit. So this cruise, again, May 24th, inside cabins start at $857 per person, and a balcony cabin starts at $1437 per person.
That is a phenomenal deal.
That's a great price for a med cruise.
Dave, call Mark in his office, book it with him, or if you have additional questions, his office number, 888-718-7717. One more time, 888-718-7717. What was the price on that again?
That one started at $857 per person.
And what cruise line is that?
That was on Royal Caribbean.
That's a really good one. Let's talk about the Malta itinerary.
This one is on MSC Cruises. It goes round trip Barcelona, goes to Marseille, France, Genoa, Italy, Naples in Italy, Messina on Sicily, and then the port we're focusing on is Valletta in Malta, and back to Barcelona. This is on the MSC World Europa.
That's a pretty new ship, if memory serves.
Their new large ship.
Yeah.
This was a May 2nd departure. Starts at $10.19 per person for an inside, or $13.19 for a balcony. So a lower price balcony than that other cruise.
Did you say what the dates were for Dave on the Couture and Valletta, Malta?
Yes, that one was May 24th.
All right, hot travel deal of the week. Let's go with the email that both of us got a little bit earlier directly from Delta, talking about bonus sky miles. So if you're a Delta person, listen up.
Delta has an offer with Delta Vacations. They're one of my preferred suppliers. I book a lot of vacations through Delta Vacations. And this is a way to get sky miles on your whole vacation. You get your miles on flights, hotel, car, any activities, plus you get those additional medallion qualifying dollars. So you can get up to 10,000 bonus sky miles.
Oh, wow.
For booking a Delta Vacations package. So how it works is the lead person on the reservation, so the main person, will get those bonus sky miles and the points for the hotel, car, activities, all of that, and the bonus medallion qualification miles. But everyone else will still earn their flight miles on that. So, booking with Delta Vacations is a great way to help build up and earn sky miles. And then also, if you're looking to get status with Delta, where you earn those medallion qualifying dollars, it'll really help. I've looked at a couple of instances for the medallion qualifying miles just to see what you could get. A 6-night trip to Cancun on average is about 6,000 medallion qualifying dollars.
Won't that get you to gold status?
That'll jump you pretty quick. And that was in Delta Comfort, 6-night hotel at a 4.5, 5-star hotel with some activities added in to that. It's a great way to earn those medallion qualifying miles and also just get your regular sky miles up for redemption. And also they do have a promotion that's going on right now. If you are a medallion member with Delta, you can get up to another $250 off your vacation price. Also, don't forget, if you have a Delta Sky Miles credit card, you also can get 2 to 3 miles on top of everything you spend, because you get the bonus miles with using a Delta American Express card as well.
Yeah, right here. I've got the reserve card. And by the way, one of the things that I love most about this thing is getting into the Sky Club. Salt Lake Sky Club is amazing. Awesome.
It is. Yeah. And if you travel a lot, and most travelers probably do know this that travel a lot, I'd get the Delta Reserve card. So you do get that included access into the Sky Club. It's a lot less expensive to pay the annual fee on the Reserve card.
It is.
Than to just outright buy a Sky Club membership.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's $650 a year to have this card.
Yes. Yeah.
If you travel a lot, money well spent. Dave, I hope that answers your question. Call Mark in his office to book. 888-718-7717. 888-718-7717. The number's also good if you have follow-up questions for your Mediterranean cruise. And then, of course, the MSC, their itinerary. By the way, MSC does have great ships, very modern. And Royal Caribbean does a great job in that part of the world as well. You just can't go wrong. Call Mark, 888-718-7717. And you can also go to blueplanetvacations.com. When we come back, it is the infamous Just Cruising segment. Nothing but cruise news and cruise deals. You're going to get more cruise deals, even though we've already kind of hinted at the cruises in this segment. That is next when the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show continues. My name is Patrick Wiscombe. He is Mark Faldmoe. We'll be back after the break. Thanks for listening.
taking you to destinations around the world. The Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show is presented by BluePlanetVacations.com, America's best travel advisors. Call or text the show now, 801-649-3700, 801-649-3700. Thanks for listening. We'll be right back.
Inside Travel Talk is brought to you by AMA Waterways. From castles and capitals to vistas and villages, visit some of Europe's most remarkable sites and cities. To set out on your own river cruise journey, contact Blue Planet Vacations at 888-718-7717 or blueplanetvacations.com.
Welcome back to the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, Mark and I will be talking about 10 disastrous mistakes cruise passengers make, winter river cruising, and we're going to answer the question that we get frequently. What is a cruise tour? Let's get back to the show. The Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com, contains travel deals, promotions, and offers that may be time sensitive. All offers and information were accurate when the show aired. Travel deals and offers change constantly and are capacity controlled and subject to change without notice.
This is the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com, America's best travel advisors. Call or text the show right now, 801-649-3700, 801-649-3700. And now, here are your hosts, Patrick Wiscombe and Mark Faldmoe.
All aboard for the infamous Just Cruising segment, part of the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show, airing each and every Saturday and Sunday right here and on InsideTravelTalk.com, where you can pick up the show. Coming up in this segment, the infamous Just Cruising segment, we've got 10 disastrous, it's a big word, Mark, disastrous mistakes that cruise ship passengers make. We'll talk about that. We'll also be talking about Viking and Disney dominating the U.S. as the best cruise lines. And we'll be talking about Royal Caribbean is confirming their deal to buy Mexico's port of Costa Maya. I did not know that. Really? That's a pretty big development, Mark.
Yeah, that is. That'll be interesting when we get to it.
And we've also got the cruise deal of the week. We are talking about winter river cruises on AMA Waterways. That is all coming up here in just this segment of the show. But let's get to the travel news headlines. Where do you want to start? Should we go Royal Caribbean, or do you want to talk about the 10 disastrous mistakes?
Let's start off with the mistake.
10 disastrous mistakes that cruise ship passengers make. Let's fly through these. Let's go 10 to 1 here.
Most of these can be avoided if you book with a professional travel advisor. A lot of people make these mistakes just not knowing. Number one is scheduling a flight on the same day as embarkation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a bad one.
There are some ports you can do that in, but I still don't even recommend that. I say always fly in a day before. You never know if a flight's going to get delayed or canceled. You want to have plenty of options to make it to your cruise. Cruise is a big investment. You don't want to miss it.
No. All right, number two.
Number two, and this is a big one. I think this is now 3 shows in a row that we've mentioned this, but failing to purchase travel insurance. What a good travel insurance plan will do, it helps you out if you're delayed or your flights are canceled. It also covers lost luggage and also health reasons when you're traveling. So on every trip, I highly recommend purchasing travel insurance. There's lots of good companies out there. I particularly like Travel X Insurance, but there's other ones, Travel Guard, Travel Insured. All do a good job, and you should purchase travel insurance for any vacation, not just a cruise.
Number 3
is showing up to the port without correct documents.
Now, the documents that you're talking about, generally speaking, are your passport or the birth certificate and I guess ID.
And ID. Yeah. And in some cases, a visa.
Number 4
is confusing real ID with enhanced driver's license or an EDL. An EDL, it functions like a passport card. So it's not a passport, but an enhanced driver's license is proof of citizenship. So you can take what's called a closed loop cruise. So a cruise that departs and ends at the same port on an EDL without your passport, without your birth certificate. And people are confusing the enhanced driver's license with real ID.
No.
So real ID is one that has the gold star in it. And you for sure need your birth certificate with that one. But I would just make it easy. If you're going on a cruise, get a passport.
Yeah, really. Take the time, just get it done. Number 5.
Overlooking the 24-week pregnancy rule. I've had many clients that have tried to show up with a port within that 24 weeks and been denied boarding. Even though we've advised against it, they all think they can do it. You do need a doctor's note to board if you're pregnant.
Yeah,
saying that you're not within that 24-week rule. This is also going back to the getting travel protection, because sometimes you book a cruise way in advance. So if you've purchased travel insurance and then become pregnant, travel insurance would cover that if you're not able to go. But you can't be pregnant and then purchase the travel insurance. You have to have purchased it before for travel insurance to cover it in that situation.
Number 7.
Attempting to bring a baby under 6 months of age.
Not a good idea anyway.
Most cruise lines are either 6 months or 12 months. So the child has to be older than that. So just check with your cruise line. Cruise lines do have pretty good medical facilities on board, but they're not equipped to help with infant medical issues as much. So they've all made this rule just for the safety of the infant.
It's the right call.
Yes.
Number 8
is failing to put your mobile device in airplane mode.
That's a really good one.
I've had people come back with $1,000 phone bill because they did not put their phone in airplane mode. Ships have a cell tower on, and then you'll pay the ship's rate for mobile data at sea, which is very expensive.
Yes, you will.
And then if you get calls and texts, luckily there's a lot of times you can get internet on board and a lot of the chat apps, WhatsApp and Apple's messages and Google messages all let you send text messages via Wi-Fi connection now. So there are lots of ways that you can avoid that and still communicate with the outside world.
Number 9.
Not checking the all aboard times on port days. There's some really funny YouTube videos about pier runners. As the ship's pulling out, they're running down the pier. So just make sure you know what the all aboard time is. The all aboard time is usually 60, 45, or 30 minutes prior to the departure time.
Number 10.
Number 10 is failing to read the cruise contract. All cruise lines have a cruise contract that you agree to when you purchase a cruise. These documents can be quite lengthy, but it does contain valuable information. You can get those on the cruise line website. Most confirmations will come with a link to that. I think it was in last week's show. What are the cruise's responsibilities when they change ports or they cancel a port? That's all in the cruise contract.
When Nikki and I were on MSC Seashore, MSC Cruises Seashore, the ship, we were in port in Costa Maya. And I think Icon of the Seas was in port. You and I have been together in Miami when Icon of the Seas is in. That ship is so enormous. I didn't even know a ship could be that big. Royal Caribbean just confirmed that they're buying Mexico's port of Costa Maya. And that's where I saw, in addition to being with you, I saw the Icon of the Seas in port there, and I was like, good grief. And I was closer to it this time. My point being, they're buying that port.
A few weeks ago, they mentioned the Perfect Day Mexico, which was in that Costa Maya port. And they did recently confirm that they've purchased land adjacent to the port in Costa Maya. And this is where their Perfect Day Mexico will go. Now, other cruise lines will still call on Costa Maya, but their Perfect Day Mexico will have a separate entrance to the port. They're going to kind of bring in their beach club concept in with this as well.
Oh, good.
So it'll be a private port there in Costa Maya for Royal Caribbean.
The private islands, if you've never been to one, get to one. They are that spectacular. Just to go on that alone, regardless of the other ports, the private ports where the ships pull up and you can have an entire beach day, worth every penny to get on a cruise ship.
Yes.
Really.
Yep.
I made a mistake, Mark. I started talking about the 10 disastrous mistakes that cruise ship passengers make, and we went way too long. So
we
sorry.
did, but that was a great segment.
Yeah, it really was. Okay, so what we'll do, when we came back, this will be, I mentioned that it was the cruise deal of the week. What we're going to do is we're just literally going to move it down to the next segment. We'll get to the winter river cruises. We'll talk about AMA Waterways offering a 20% off on select sailings, and we'll give you the additional deal that we have. That was my mistake. My bad. More of the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show when Mark and I come back. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be right back.
Explore your world. You're listening to the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show with Patrick Wiscombe and Mark Faldmoe. Call or text the show now. 801-649-3700. That's 801-649-3700. And check out the podcast at InsideTravelTalk.com. We'll be right back.
Inside Travel Talk is brought to you by Travelex Insurance Services. When the travel insurance question comes up, a lot of people think, I'm young and healthy, I'll be fine. But in today's uncertain world, are you sure? If you're not, check out Travelex Insurance Services. Their travel insurance plans can help protect you and your vacation. A lot of travel insurance plans look similar, but let's talk about customer experience. Travelex is known for their award-winning customer service and high claims paid rate. Travelex partners with travel advisors throughout North America, so ask your travel advisor for Travelex or contact Blue Planet Vacations at 888-718-7717 or blueplanetvacations.com for more information.
This is the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show with Patrick Wiscombe and Mark Faldmoe, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com, America's best travel advisors. Call the show right now, 801-649-3700, 801-649-3700. And now, your hosts, Patrick Wiscombe and Mark Faldmoe.
Final segment of this week's Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show alongside Mark Faldmoe. My name is Patrick Wiscombe. I made the mistake of not getting to the cruise deal of the week because I went a little bit too long on the travel news. So thanks for hanging out. I promise we will get to the infamous cruise deal of the week coming up in this segment. As we come back from break, we've got one piece of travel news that we need to talk about. That traveler frustration is real, obviously. But let's talk about the technology, how it's helping travelers. Mark, let's start there.
This is a study that was done by Amadeus, which is a GDS, global distribution system for travel. It's what the airlines use and travel agents use. So in their study, it was half of travelers found that the most frustrating part of travel is finding the correct routes and schedule. Interestingly enough, that is higher among younger travelers and lower among older travelers, but it came out to about 50%. And also, what they find frustrating is when a flight is delayed or changed. And so this is where technology really can come in, especially with the airline's mobile apps and other mobile apps that help you just reschedule a flight right on it on day of travel with notifications, digital bag tracking. One thing that's nice, a lot of airlines do this. I like on Delta where it says your bag is loaded onto the plane.
Yes, I do like that.
You know, or your bag is coming out on Carousel 5 when it's coming out. So there are a lot of things that technology can do to help alleviate stress and, things that we've talked about before as well, such as TSA PreCheck, Global ID, Real ID. All of these new technology things are wonderful and hopefully will help reduce some of the stress of travel. Interestingly enough, in this report, they did find that of leisure travelers, about 50% for all of these categories actually wanted human intervention at the security checks, border control, when they check in for flights, when they check in for a cruise. There still is that need for the human intervention in that.
Oh, how interesting.
But there is technology that can help with a lot of this stuff.
Let's get to the cruise deal of the week, delayed from segment 3 to this segment. Let's talk about winter river cruises. Your favorite river cruise line is AMA Waterways. What deal do we have for listeners this week?
I think we talked a few weeks ago about some river cruise lines adding winter cruises, and now more and more are adding them. It'll be an interesting experiment to see if this works. Just going back to ocean cruise lines, I remember years ago, Norwegian Cruise Line said it was going to do round-trip Caribbean cruises from New York, and everyone said those will never work out of New York in the winter month.
I would argue that it would actually be more packed.
It is, because all of those people from the Northeast can drive to New York rather than fly to Miami. Saves them money. So it actually turned out to be a hit. So I hope these river cruises also turn out to be a hit. You can actually save some money by doing this because the prices are significantly less than in the regular cruise season. And that's one thing where people say, who really wants to go to Europe in the dead of winter? But again, the prices are good, and you'll get to see these cities with nobody visiting them. I'm just thinking of, I think like Dürnstein in Austria on the Danube. Other than the locals, the only tourists there. Be wonderful to have that little city to yourself.
What a unique experience.
Yeah, and then, as I previously mentioned, pricing. I did look at AMA Waterways. So I compared a 7-day Danube river cruise in February and in May, which isn't even peak season. So the river cruise in February was $2,400 per person in February compared to $4,100 per person in May. So what's that, $1,700 per person?
Per person.
In Europe, most cruise lines are only on the main rivers, so the Rhine and Danube in the wintertime, which in my opinion are the two best rivers. So if you're looking for a good deal, want to see some interesting parts of Europe without many people, look at these winter river cruises.
If you could only take one, Rhine or Danube, what's the one that you're going to go to first?
I'm going to say Danube. The Danube is by far my favorite because it involves Budapest, which is one of my favorite cities. So
there we go. Okay.
A lot of people might say the Rhine because of all the castles. The scenery on the Rhine is just amazing.
So what I'm hearing you say is you really can't make a mistake.
I don't think you can make a mistake on either of those rivers. Yeah.
So it's really just preference.
Yes. Yeah.
I also saw that AMA Waterways is offering up to 20% off select sailings. Did I see that right?
You did. Yeah. Even in these winter months, AMA Waterways has 20% off select sailings, and they have the fixed rate airfare starting at $8.99 for 2025 cruises, or $9.99 for 2026 cruises. Even in the winter or the spring or summer or fall, now is a great time to book a river cruise.
How many days, generally speaking, are the river cruises?
There are some that are 4 or 5 nights, but generally speaking, they're 7 to 21 day voyages. Depending on the cruise line, we'll say Grand European Tour, which includes the Rhine, the Danube. All of the rivers in Europe are connected through canals and locks and different things. So you can go all over Europe on a river. You can have these longer cruises as well.
What's the longest cruise you've been on one of those rivers?
I've only done a 7-day. Is the longest.
When you got to the end of the 7 days, did you ever go, yeah, okay, I'm good? Or was it like, man, I sure wish I had, another 3 to 7 days?
I'm always wanting more.
I'm sorry, I'm asking the wrong person.
Yeah. And you go to some of these smaller cities, there are hundreds of them along the rivers that you could stop at and see wonderful sights. So you can't possibly see everything there is to see just in that week long on the river. They really try and choose the best spots. There are several different Danube offerings or different Ryan offerings that all visit slightly different ports to try and give you an option to see all of that. So I would just find an itinerary, find 2 or 3 places that you really want to see. For me, it would be Budapest and some of those Eastern European, Slovakia, different places like that, which I really like. So just find some cities that interest you and find a itinerary that meets that.
You received a text a little bit earlier this week from Kate, and she sent you the text to 801-649-3700, 801-649-3700. So if you have a specific travel-related question, text Mark, or I guess you could call it too, but text Mark at that address. Kate is asking, I've heard you and Patrick talk about cruise tours before. She's asking, what is a cruise tour? Okay, let's just start there. What's a cruise tour?
Well, a cruise tour is where you combine a cruise with a land tour. There are cruise tours all over the world. Most prevalently, you'll see them in Alaska. There are some in Europe. There are some in Asia. There are some in the South Pacific. A Norwegian offers a cruise tour in Hawaii. They have their 7-day cruise, but you don't really get to see Oahu. So they have a 3-night cruise tour that includes the Polynesian Cultural Center and, some different things like that. And we'll just go back and focus on Alaska right here, because there are several Alaska cruise tours offered. A lot of people do want to get into that interior of Alaska. They want to see Denali. They want to see Fairbanks. And so what a cruise tour does is it allows you to see that interior of Alaska.
It's one thing to see it from the river. There were times that I wanted to spend more time in port than going back to the cruise ship early. And so I would think that would be very interesting to a lot of people.
It would, yeah. And so, I found a unique cruise tour. This is one that Holland America has done for quite a while that I wanted to do. There are several different variations of this. I just chose the 10-day cruise tour, and this is 10-day Denali and Yukon. And so what you do is it leaves from Vancouver, you sail to Skagway. So your ports on that would be Ketchikan and Juneau. And you actually get off the ship in Skagway. You take the White Pass Railroad to Whitehorse in Canada, and then you take a bus to Dawson City, Canada, and then from there you take a flight to Fairbanks, and then from Fairbanks you come down, spend a day in Denali National Park, and then you take the train Denali down to Anchorage.
Oh, wow.
So you're doing 5 of the 7 days on the cruise. You get off partway through and do that Yukon territory in Canada. Plus you get to see Denali National Park.
Alaska is so great. You just can't go wrong. There's 2 vacations that everyone will agree on: Hawaii and Alaska. Period.
Yeah, and that's why, last week we talked about the small ships in Alaska. Mm-hmm. There are so many different ways to do Alaska. We'll probably do a segment in the future about if you just want to do a land tour to Alaska. There's so much to see and experience in Alaska.
You will always be glad that you went to Alaska. You'll always be glad that you traveled the world. You'll always be glad that you went to Europe. AMA Waterways. Go during the low season. $2,400 per person to go sail the Danube. That's astonishing. That's a $1,700 savings instead of going in May. Go in February. Have Europe all to yourself. Call Mark in his office, 888-718-7717, 888-718-7717. Thank you so much for listening. You can listen to this show again tomorrow morning, Sunday at 11 a.m. right here on 860 KKAT here in Salt Lake City. And if you want or need to listen to the show again, you can also download and subscribe to the podcast version of this show on InsideTravelTalk.com. And we're on all of the major podcast platforms. Well, now it's your turn to get out and explore the world while you can, because you never know what curveballs life is going to throw at you. Make the choice to live your life deliberately and live your life intentionally. thank you so much for listening. Really, Mark and I sincerely appreciate you listening each and every week. Have a great week. We'll talk to you again next week. Thank you.
That's it. That's the end of the show. You've been listening to the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show with Patrick Wiscombe and Mark Faldmoe, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com. Book your adventure right now. Call 888-718-7717. That's 888-718-7717. Thanks for listening. Have a great week.